Welcome back, women. I don't know about you, but after our last conversation, I caught myself auditing my own comforts too. That's the thing about sitting with truth consistently. It starts visiting you in ordinary moments. To be honest, I'm grateful to Jehovah for allowing us to sit here together like this, learning, unlearning, relearning, and coming back to Bible truths. Okay, now put everything down for these few minutes. This is your time with God. Have your Bible open beside you and your faith diary ready. Last week we held a question that lingers. What are you feeding yourself? Because no one stays unchanged. What you feed on doesn't stay small. It grows. And if it grows long enough, it starts making decisions for you in the background, quietly shaping your appetite, your choices, and your peace. But this is where Jehovah's mercy becomes personal. He shows us what we justify, not to shame us, but to help and save us. Because as long as you're excusing your addictions, you can't be free from it. To kill that addiction, you must drag it into the light, lay it at his feet and say, "This thing doesn't get my heart anymore. I belong to God." Let's bring it closer. What's the thing you constantly defend? What's parking in your blind spot, the thing your closest ones have gently mentioned to you, but you brush off? What's the thing that keeps you from building a solid, consistent, real relationship with God? What have you normalized so deeply that you even call it just part of who I am? When you identified that right there is your battle. And restoring your love for God starts the moment you stop explaining it and start repenting for it. It's like King Saul in 1 Samuel 15. God told him to destroy everything, to leave no compromise standing. But what did Saul do? He spared the best livestock. Saul then justified it by saying, "We're saving it to sacrifice to God." Look how sneaky this was. See how he disobeyed and covered it with worship. Open to 1 Samuel 15:22 and see God's response. He says, "To obey is better than sacrifice." See, your God isn't looking for your good intentions. He's looking for your obedience. And this is where the comfort chains begin to crack. When you stop lying to yourself, when you say, "God, I've been holding on to this thing, calling it harmless, but it's been holding me, and I want to be free." But that confession brings you face to face with the next brutal but beautiful truth. Freedom comes through fighting. Yes, you have to fight, women, because the enemy won't let you go without a fight. No way. And to break free, you'll need more than honesty. You'll need your God, His authority, and His ultimate power. You see, once you make the choice to evict those worldly comforts and you confess them to God, there comes a moment after the excuses collapse, after the fog lifts and the mask is off, when the silence between you and God grows unbearably loud. You've now identified the addictions. You've stopped pretending, but now you stand nervous and unsteady at the threshold of freedom, knowing that exposing it is just the first step and that you can't do this alone, not with your own power. Because once the idol is torn down in your heart, it still has to be thrown out of your life, and that's where most people stop. They'll admit the addiction in a journal, whisper it to themselves, even cry about it in prayer. But James 5:16 doesn't say, confess to yourself. It says, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. Confession is like spiritual surgery. It doesn't just touch the surface, it cuts deep. It's the scalpel that opens the wound wide enough for God to reach what's festering beneath. You see, addiction thrives in isolation. It grows in our shadow places, and the longer it stays hidden, the more it whispers that no one would understand, that if they knew, they'd leave, that it's better to keep it private. The good news is, Satan, although very dangerous, has limited authority given him by God. So the moment you drag your sin or false comfort into the light, meaning in front of God and His Word, its power begins to break. The difference is often not loud. It's a whisper that finally tells the truth. Women, when we take that step, I know it's uncomfortable. The shame feels like a wall you can't climb over. 'Cause many times the fear of judgment grips tighter than the addiction itself. But listen, the people God surrounds you with, the right people, aren't there to judge you. See them as your rescue team. You don't confess so people can fix you. You confess so healing can begin. But if the people around you aren't safe to confess to, you can always lay it bare to God, right at His feet. Because the cost of silence is far greater than the sting of honesty. Think about David, the man after God's heart, a worshipper, a warrior, a king. And yet, he fell into the kind of sin we don't talk about in polite company. Adultery, lies, and murder. And for a while, he hid it. In Psalm 32, you hear the pain of secrecy. He says, "When I kept silent, my bones wasted away. Through my groaning all day long, his body ached, his soul withered." Why? Because secrets rot inside us. But then comes verse 5 of Psalm 32, a turning point, soaked in mercy. David confesses, "I acknowledged my sin to you, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." Not just the sin itself, but also the guilt of it. That means confession doesn't just bring forgiveness, it brings freedom from shame. The thing that once controlled you becomes the very place God displays His forgiveness. And here's what most of us don't realize at the time. Confession isn't weakness. Every time you confess, you're breaking agreements with lies. You're saying, "I will no longer protect what's trying to destroy my relationship with Jehovah." Your sinful nature is getting trained. You get to see that it's not in control, and the devil loses power when you stop guarding your chains. All right, women, it's time for Mirror Moment. Open your faith diary and ask yourself this question. What are you still trying to manage alone, without God's help? That addiction, whatever it is, has you pacing the room late at night, rehearsing reasons why now is not the time to let it go. Telling yourself one more week or one more attempt to quit on my own. But you've tried before. You've cried before. And still the cycle drags on. It's not because you don't hate the addiction. It's because you've never let God in. I mean, really inside your struggle. And that's where we'll pause for today. See you next Monday.